So we're keeping it simple here just by noticing the breathing. And in fact, beginning here, let's just take a few deeper breaths. And so we can exhale together. And then just take a nice big inhale, filling up the belly, the rib cage, even the shoulders and the head. And then a really natural exhale out of the mouth. Yeah. And again, inhale slowly. And exhale. And again, inhale. And exhale. And just coming into a really gentle, easy rhythm of breath. And so we draw our attention to our breath, and our attention is naturally drawn inward. And the Yin practice is an introspective practice. We go a little bit deeper into the body intentionally. And when we go a little bit deeper into the body, our mind naturally follows. And what we want to do is just create space to be curious about what we find in the mind and the body. And also really, really open to discovering whatever arises. It's many of us, our pattern is sort of like this achievement orientation, which is helpful and appropriate in work, in a job, in sports, and things like this. Yoga is a little bit different. Our approach to yoga can sometimes become just like those other things, where we become collectors of poses, or we're after that huge sensation. And we're constantly needing more and more and more and more and more. And yoga's not a great way to satisfy that. It's because it's not made for that. That's not what it's for. Yoga is about depth of understanding of your mind and your body. And so the Yin practice is very conducive to this. Because if you're trying to achieve something in a Yin posture, then you're not doing Yin. The main directive of Yin Yoga is to just be exactly where you are. And getting out of that orientation of trying to get somewhere. Even getting to the end of the pose, or the end of the class, or the end of this breath. Can we break out of that patterning and just be more here? And so there can be this sort of yogic materialism that develops, where we're needing this giant sensation, this giant pose, this fancy thing, this pretzel-like shape in order to satisfy us. And a satisfaction like that will never be satisfied. And so let's just be here with this for now. You might begin to feel your body and your mind settling a bit, or maybe there's still some, mind stuff going on, maybe even a little bit of tension in the body, that's all okay, because that's what's happening right now. We're not trying to be somewhere else. We're trying to be here with this. Let's just take another big inhale, filling up. And a long exhale. And again, inhale. And exhale. And again, inhale. And this time as you exhale, just slightly opening up the eyes, little by little. Receiving light, receiving vision. Rather than being out there, we're still in here. We're receiving. That's a yin, very yin thing. Receiving. And let's just do just a little movement here. So just a little bit of movement. I like to do these rolls, call them Sufi rolls, or just they're circles. And I want to be fairly intentional about it. And so we inhale and press the chest forward, drawing the shoulders back. Hands can be on the knees. And then we exhale to round and pull the belly in, so super round. And then you inhale to come forward, reach the chest forward, and then pull back. And then inhale. And exhale, round. Just 2 more times. Total of 5. Yeah. And then we'll go the other way. Just pulling around. Pressing forward actively. So we're extending the spine and then we're rounding the spine. Yeah. So moving the lower back. Maybe we've been sitting more than normal. A lot of people have, me included. And so our low back gets really compressed. And so getting some movement down there is really important. And then we'll do smaller circles. Go back the other way. Just smaller circles. Same thing though. Rounding and then pushing forward. Rounding and then pushing forward. Inhaling forward. Exhaling back. Yeah. And then we'll go the other way. I haven't been keeping count. So, sorry. Going for 5. And then we'll do even smaller circles, just kind of right around the center. So trying to still do the same thing with the spine. It's a little bit more awkward and squirmy looking, but it's fine. You're at home and I can't see you. Nobody can. You can see me though. Yeah. And then we'll come back to center and just take a nice inhale, reaching up. And again, extending the spine and just really opening the chest here. Like you've just won some trophy. And you're looking up at the crowd. Yeah. And then we'll bring the arms back down. And let's just bring the soles of the feet out. Come into butterfly pose, butterfly posture. My intention here is to get to 2 different target areas. Typically, we're just going to focus on 1, but you may get into 2. The first one is going to be the inner legs. If you don't feel it in the inner legs, you might bring sometimes bringing the heels in a little bit closer to the pelvis. You'll get some inner leg things. Again, we don't want some extreme thing, just a little bit. And you might not start feeling it until you come forward. The other intention of this pose, and the main intention, is to get some length in the spine. And so the way I like to do this, the way I like to come forward, is just to find some lift, stay extended, and just tilt forward like you're sending your chest forward. And you're going to stop at some point where, you would be required to round in order to go any further. So you just want to know where that point is. You might even sit up on a towel or something, or a blanket, a pillow. And then just begin to round from the very bottom of the spine, still reaching the chest forward. And then that rounding gradually comes up. And maybe you get to mid-back and you want to rock a little bit side to side and explore that. And then maybe you come down a little bit more and you feel something different. Maybe you keep coming down even more. Maybe you put a prop underneath your chest or a block underneath your head or something. Maybe you come down even more and just round and allow your head to completely fall forward. Which can be nice because the weight of the head will start to pull the spine, the whole back. But some of us don't like to let our necks hang like that. That's fine. Put something underneath the head, like a block or even your hands. Yeah. And wiggle around a bit, find the posture, and then eventually settle. And we want to relax. We never want to be rigid. We're never just holding the posture. We're not holding a shape. That's not what we're doing. We're targeting places in the body. And so know that, again, it's a relative stillness. You can sway, you can move, you can adjust. We don't want to constantly move. We don't want to fidget. That's not helpful. That's an avoidance of the posture. But there's a sense of freedom in the hold, a lightness, a kindness in the hold. And I want you to round your back. Many times in yoga we're told never to round our back. But it's impossible to stretch the muscles and the tissues of the back and the spine without rounding your back. You can't. Now, if you have an injury, it's going to be good for you and psychologically and physiologically to keep a little extension in your spine for sure. But if you can round your spine, round it. Don't be scared. And just breathe. Breathe with an emphasis on the exhale. We want full, nourishing inhales and then exhales that are we just let them go. Not a forceful letting go. We just let the air go. You might notice as you prioritize the breath and your posture or let your exhale go, how good it feels to breathe. Bring an appreciation to our breathing, our breath. Breath is our greatest companion. It's with us from our very first breath to our very last breath. It's our home. And so let it be like home base for you. And you might start to feel the body creating some space on its own. Again, we're not pushing, we're not pulling, we're not cranking on the body. We do that and we start to work against the body. Yeah? We want a softness. Doesn't mean we don't feel uncomfortable at times. That's fine. But we're never pulling actively. We're not trying to force anything. Because that force is met with resistance. And when the body resists something, it seeks to become more resistant, more resistant, more resistant. And so little by little, by little, by little, by little, by little, coaxing the tissues longer. Yeah, that's what we want to do. Just ride the gentle wave of the breath, a gentle up and down. Just another few breaths here. We're not going to hold the poses super long tonight. Again, we're just going to go a little bit easy. though it may not be easy for you. In yin terms, it's a little easy. Good. When you're ready, you can begin to come out of this. Don't rush it, though. Just like we came into it gradually, we want to come out of it gradually. And so just rounding back up. Yeah, and if you want to stay longer, you can always stay longer. No problem with that at all. And let's just bring the legs out in front of us. We'll just lean back on the hands and just pause for a moment. I like to lift the chest a lot and lift the head a bit. Just to counter the flexion of the spine with a little extension. Yeah, and then let's relax and then let's walk the feet in, bring the heels in, and then keep the feet pretty wide apart, and then just drop the knees from side to side. So creating a little bit more space in the low spine and moving the femurs around in the hip sockets. Rather than trying to force this top knee down, like down, think of it going more forward. So we're pressing the knee forward. So we lift, drop, and then press forward. So we're creating more space rather than putting a lot of pressure on the knee. Yeah, and you might get a different sort of sensation by doing that. And then let's come to all fours and just move around there. Yeah, so cow and cat. Yeah, just moving the spine. Even a downward facing dog. Just creating some fluidity in the hips and the low spine. Yeah. And trying to maintain the inner stillness. And then we're just going to crawl out onto the belly. Sphinx posture. Now, a few things you might want to experiment with here. You might want to experiment with the placement of the elbows. So the elbows could be right underneath the shoulders, or it could be a little bit wider, or you could walk the elbows forward. The intention here is to get some extension, some compression in the low spine. But if you walk the elbows more forward, the less compression you'll get. So know that you can always do that. Palms can be together or down or up or together. That part doesn't really matter. Experiment with the legs too. See what it's like with the legs close, with the legs wide, about midway. Little wiggle of the hips. Now if you have some low back sensitivity, engage your abdominals just a little bit. Yeah. Again, sometimes it's just a psychological comfort if you've had some lower back issues. Sometimes it's an actual physiological stability. Yeah. So little engagement of the belly is just fine. And perhaps we broaden the collarbones a bit, just lifting slightly with a little drop of the chin. Softening of the eyes and the face. And just draw your attention to the breath. Not exclusively, but the breath's at the center. And you might come to this place where it's almost as if the whole body is expanding and contracting with the breath, which is a really nice place to be. It's complete union, breath, body, mind. And union is one of the definitions of yoga. And also mindfulness as well. So, unification. Now, if you'd like something a bit more intense for the low back, maybe this is you're barely getting any sensation at all. Which again, we're not after sensation, but if you want something a little bit more, first thing you can do, you could lift your heels up above your knees. See what that's like. You could also come into what we call seal posture. So you'd keep the feet down and then come to the palms and lengthen the arms. Yeah, you can walk the hands in towards you more or out a little bit further. Sort of a hybrid version is you could put the elbows up on blocks. That's a nice thing to do too. Or some type of prop. And then something else that we're doing in this posture, as far as the spine, is we're compressing the back of the spine, but we're opening the front of the spine. And so the longitudinal ligaments, which are these long ligaments that run up the front and the back of the spinal column, there's an anterior and a posterior. And so we're stretching that the forward one, the anterior one. And these extensions. So we start to visualize the body from in different orientations. Like if we see the spine from the front now, see all the things that are happening rather than just where it's most intense. It can dilute the intensity a bit. Again, this isn't something we're trying to get to. This isn't an achievement, but some people require this just from the shape of their bones. Okay, let's come out of this. We'll just come all the way down and make a little pillow with your arms and just find neutral. Just a neutral place. For many people, this isn't even neutral. This still feels like a back bend. So just notice if that's happening with you. And just feel what we call the rebound, the resonance of the posture, the sort of the nectar of the work of the posture. We'll start to move now. You might just begin by stretching really long, almost like you're being pulled in two different directions. A little wiggle, and then compress back to fours, move around there. cow and cat, downward facing dog. Again, anything's possible. We just want to keep it fluid, nothing too intense, no sudden jerky movements. We want to keep everything very smooth so the body can adjust. In Yin, we create certain vulnerabilities in the body temporarily, and so we don't want to snap out of things and move too quickly. Gradually flowing between postures, moving very slowly. Moving with purpose, intention. And then we're going to find swan pose on the right side. Swan is yin for pigeon, if you're not familiar with Yin Yoga. And so we just bring the right knee forward towards the right wrist or towards the right edge of the mat, and then the foot to the left edge of the mat. Now you don't have to try to bring this shin forward at all or anything like that. We're trying to get a stretch in the outer hip. So the glutes, the IT band, and the external rotators, all that's usually sometimes called the abductors because they abduct the leg. And why we call this swan and not pigeon is because we want to take all the rules that you've learned about pigeon and forget about them. So this is swan. It has no rules other than to get into that target area. So the glutes, big muscles, big target area. So again, all those glute muscles, the external rotators, and the IT band. And I want you to just feel around here. Yes, you're allowed to drop the hip down to the ground if you want to. You're allowed to twist a bit. You're allowed to see what it's like to come down over the foot or the shin or the knee. I want you to just explore around and feel. And what we're trying to do is get the broadest sensation we can across the glutes and the IT band and those external rotators. So just feel around. If this pose is inappropriate for you, I'd recommend coming to the back and doing eye of the needle. It targets the same area. Or if you'd rather, you could do this pose. We call it shoelace. So one of those. And again, break those pigeon rules. Don't worry about that. We want to prioritize the target area and as close to zero sensation in this knee. No way do we want to hold knee pain for 3 minutes. That's a no-no. And then once you find something, just settle into it. Breathe. Emphasis on the exhale. And if you're in this place that's really difficult, where you can't breathe and things hurt, then adjust, please. There's all this weirdness around pigeon, I've found, just from being a teacher for so long. And I see people doing all kinds of interesting things. But what is yoga if it's not a functional practice? If it's not about the purpose of the posture or what we're trying to do in the posture, if it's only about making shapes, then what's the use of that? We might as well be doing ballet or something. Yoga is about healing the body, healing the mind, creating unification. It's not about creating this perfect shape, because there is no perfect shape. There is no perfect shape because there is no perfect body, because all of our bodies are different. So we can't possibly lay out a set of rules and say, this is how you do this pose, and this is what you're supposed to look like, because everybody's completely different. It would be like saying everybody should take this medication. Every single person should take these pills at this time every day. it wouldn't work. And so target area, function, what are we trying to do? What are we doing in our posture? What is the purpose? That is the focus. And so get your mind out of the way and start to get into the body. Embodying the postures, embodying your own body. That's what this is all about. Just another 30 seconds or so here, settling a little more. Again, you're always free to hold longer. No issue with that whatsoever. Your practice, your body. But if you're ready, you can begin to come out of this very slowly. And then we're just going to drop over to the hip if you're in swan, and then just swing the legs out in front of you. And bring this right leg out. So extend the right leg. Let's bring the left foot in. You could also, if you want to, bring the left heel next to the hip. That's going to be fine too. What we're going to do is just fold out over the right leg in order to get a stretch in the hamstrings. That's about it. If your hamstrings are very tight, bend the knee. Put something underneath the knee, like a blanket or a block or even your arm. It's a good prop. And move around. Again, just like with the hips, we want to test things out. What's it like to fold to the inside of the leg, to the outside of the leg, over the leg? Is rounding appropriate here or is extending? The only thing I want to do is relax the leg and feel into the hamstrings. It's probably where you're going to feel it the most. Some people it's going to be in the back, but we're targeting the hamstrings. And then you just relax. I even like to have like just the slightest little rock side to side. Very, very, very slow. You might not even notice that I'm rocking. If your foot's available, you could grab it. Again, we just don't want to crank on it. Create a little extra tension just by grabbing. That's fine. Again, but we're not pulling. Again, can I breathe? That's a good question to ask. So maybe a little sway, breathing softly like a boat on a very almost still ocean. Good. Another just few breaths here. Not much. Good. Let's slowly come up. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And just come into a seat for a moment. Just a simple meditation seat. Sukhasana is what it's called sometimes. Just easy posture. Easeful posture. We'll start to move again, coming into all fours, and you know where we're going. Before you go there, wipe your memory completely of the right side and come into the left side of the swan. So we're not using what we found on the right side and imposing that on the left side. Completely different side, completely different pose. Yeah, again, target areas, that is the glutes, the hip, the external rotators. Kind of feel it underneath the glutes. And the IT band maybe. And you find it. You might end up in a completely different shape than you were before. And then we'll just rest into it when you're ready. Going for depth. Each exhale pulls you a little bit deeper. Not physically, but a little bit deeper embodiment of that union of mind and body, of awareness of the body. Deeper refinement of your experience and your noticing the mind and the body. Breath comes in, the breath goes out. Let it be that simple. Simple isn't always easy. Another 30 seconds here. Relax, relax, relax. Good. Stay if you wanna. When you're ready, you can begin to come out of this very slowly, again, smooth and slow. And then we'll swing the legs out in front. Extend the left leg, just like we did on the other side. You can pull the butt back a little bit. And then we'll find our hamstring stretch on this side. Again, it might be really different than the right side. And again, put something underneath the knee if your hamstrings are tight. You'll still get a stretch. In fact, you'll get a better stretch. You'll get a more complete stretch. Yeah, it's always best to err on the side of less, especially when we're tight. Because we may be tight because we're always pushing. If we're always pushing, we're going to remain tight. So go gentle, go easy. That's sort of the theme of the class, to back off, be kind, create space. Getting that little sway I talked about. A little bitty bit. Good. Begin to come out of this very slowly. And then what we're going to do is just extend both legs out, lift the knees slightly, and then just slowly come all the way down to the back. Yeah. Like Shavasana, or you might just keep the heels in underneath the knees. That might be more comfortable for some people, more neutral. Yeah, and now let's walk the feet in, heels in close, and just lift up and down and bridge a few times. You don't have to coordinate it with your breath or anything like that. Just lifting, just engaging some of the muscles of the back. Yeah, just a little movement. Yeah, and then let's lift the knees above the hips. Wrap the left leg around the right leg, and just drop the knees over to the right. Yeah, you can slide the knees into the chest more or away. Then reach the left arm out to the left, or just set the hand on the rib cage or the belly, and just experience the twist. Again, emphasis on the exhale. So the exhale will draw us to our depth in the twist. So we let go. You might even be a little bit more intentional in the breath. I sometimes like to bring like a 3-count inhale and a 5-count exhale. And really let go at the end of the exhale. Let's bring those knees back up through center. Unravel them. And just pull them in and just move the knees in big circles together. Yeah. Those big circles one way and then the other way. Just creating some space there in the low back. And then we'll come back to center, wrap the right leg around the left leg, and then drop the knees over to the left. Call this twisted roots. It's a nice twist, but if your roots don't twist, then don't worry about it. You can just drop the knees over. Just about 2 minutes here, just because we're going to get kicked off soon. So. Following this simple breath pattern, perhaps bringing the counting in, whatever it takes to release into the posture. I like to take a very pragmatic approach. Whatever it takes. Counting, visualization, mantra, whatever. Let's bring the knees back up through center. Bring the feet down flat. And do a few more of those up and down bridge poses. I don't know where bridgers came from, but just bridges, up and down, lifting the hips up, coming down. Yeah, and then eventually we'll just make our way up to a seat and we'll meet there. Just bringing the awareness in, noticing the effect that the practice has had on your body and your mind. Sending gratitude to your breath, to your body, to your mind. Gratitude to this means of taking class. That we are privileged enough to do this, to meet here. And I want to thank each of you deeply for showing up to your mat this evening, for taking this time to slow down, to pay attention, and to be really kind to yourself. If you need to ask me any questions, you can find me in various places. And I hope to see you again next time. Namaste.